welcome to Wrestling and Everything Coast to Coast with your host, Buddy Sotelo, Esquire, and wrestling's premier photographer, Dr. Mike Leno. But we have, again, our very special guests here for Pride Month. They are the promoters of Full Queer Wrestling in San Francisco, in the Bay Area. We are very, very happy to have Ryan and Devine here to, Ellie, should we start referring to you as LED now that you've actually debuted?
I have debuted, so it's LED forever and ever until
until you change gimmicks. It'll happen.
Exactly.
No matter what you do.
LED is very conservative of energy.
Yes, exactly.
And I need to conserve my energy because my in-ring cardio is not so great.
You're better than fluorescent gal.
It'll improve.
Yes. And way better than incandescent.
I can't wait to see LED during the holiday. I won't say Christmas, but during the holidays, because there are lights in many faiths.
We absolutely need to do a Hanukkah lights gimmick.
Oh,
with LED.
Gonna happen.
I'll do it.
LED only.
Consider the singlet made.
I'll do it. Star David and lights.
So I had the privilege of seeing your live show over at the Armistice Brewery in Richmond, and I had a really good time. I couldn't stay for the entire thing, and I couldn't stay for your debut, which I really did want to see. I am very sorry to miss that, but how did it go? You can start off by telling us, what was it like to have your first moment in the ring?
Well, coming around the corner with my music hitting was absolutely incredible. I think my music does a lot of legwork for me too, because I enter to Fell in Love with a Girl by the White Stripes.
Great song.
So it's got this very short guitar riff intro that is very recognizable to people who are into the White Stripes. And then I come around the corner and people were already hyped. They were popping for the song before they started popping for me. And then they saw me and they were like, oh, we didn't expect this. And the regulars have been asking me for a while, like, oh, are you debuting yet? Are you debuting yet? Are you debuting yet? And this time I got to tell them, yes, you got to stay until the end of the show because I'm in the main event. And those folks popped for me. My mom and her partner and their dog were there. My two closest friends in the whole world, my niece and nephew, my cousins, my in-laws, just
my parents were there.
Yeah, a lot of great people. Just like the most important people in my life showed up, basically.
Our blood brother and sister and their children.
Yeah, so like everything felt really, really good until I got out of the ring and all I could think about was what I did wrong.
Every wrestler in the entire universe and manager in the entire universe is the same thing. So you're not totally normal.
So it was immediately like, oh, I messed up. I could have done this better. I could have done that better. I wish this had been set up better. I wish that
that's the main thing. Did you have fun?
I did have fun, and I cannot wait. My next outing is going to be at our show in August called Snapback.
Looks good.
Thank you. I drew the flyer for this one.
You drew the flyer?
The flyer all over Facebook, Twitter.
I can see it.
Did you draw that?
I did, yes.
Wait,
Russ, I can't see anything on their end. It just says Elizabeth and it's got a still photo. I can't see any if they're showing a graphic or a program.
It looks really good. Wow, I didn't know you were that good of an artist. I mean, you're really good.
So we can see it. We can't see it. Whatever.
Well, I can certainly see if I can link it somehow in the video chat or something. At the very least, I'll send it over after the call.
She also did our poster for Pride or Die, the rainbow of wrestlers on black. She's done our last couple of posters. She did the poster for our arm wrestling show, which we just ran yesterday.
Let me ask something quickly about the White Stripes. Can they change or can you alter the second word of icky thump into icky trump? One of their famous songs.
Another great song by them. Another one I
2007.
considered for my entrance music, but it doesn't feel as much me.
My favorite will always be The Hardest Button to Button, personally.
Meg and Jack White were not related, and then they broke up. They weren't related. Is that correct?
I don't really know. They did a whole like kayfabe siblings in love thing, and I don't know on what level that was real and on what level it was a work.
I believe they were married and pretending to be siblings.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
In kayfabe, they were siblings.
But what happened to her? He went on. He's got that fabulous store. He produces other people. But what happened to Meg White? She's still music?
Maybe she drums. Just
You can reach out to her and see if you can get her on the podcast next.
Yeah, she'd be a great guest.
Definitely.
So tell me a little bit more about your first reactions, and then did you go back to the locker room and talk about it with the who were you in the ring with?
So I should clarify for those who don't know, the main event for Pride or Die was the Sylvia Rivera Rainbow Rumble. So it was a Royal Rumble style battle royal.
13 competitors in honor of each of the 13 stripes on the new Pride flag.
Yes.
And then Doc Atrocity introduced himself as the 14th competitor, representing a color that our puny human eyes could not perceive.
So by the time I got in, there had already been some eliminations. But, I ran in there. I immediately gave Brittany Wonder a clothesline, turned around, saw Cliff Hendricks and Bartman running at me, gave them clotheslines. Brooke Havoc was also in the ring. And I believe it was just us. Yeah, that was everybody. Sadly, I did not make it very far in. I eliminated Cliff Hendricks, which I'm very proud of. But Brooke Havoc and Bartman, who ended up being the final two in the Rumble, kind of worked together to eliminate me.
Did you say Fartman as in Howard Stern?
Bartman as in Bay Area Rapid Transit. He's the hero.
Oh, that's funny.
That our public transit system needs.
Bartman is one of our company's top faces. He's currently the microaggression champion. That's a title that acquires a new name in honor of a gay rights activist every time it changes hands.
That's pretty funny.
Does Bartman have an outfit that's sort of resembling one of our Bart trains?
He's a masked luchador, actually, and his mask looks a lot like you took the Bart logo and made a face out of it, basically.
Wow.
And then
a B and an A.
His tights have a design that evokes the trains. He enters to there's a Bart train honk.
Yes.
Right at the drop.
And then it goes into Do the Bartman from The Simpsons.
That's right.
Nice. Very good.
Named after the Bart system. But I will say this guy takes kayfabe the most seriously of anyone I've ever worked with. You will never see him take his mask off.
We've never seen his face.
Wow.
Except at this last show, I imagine a few people might have gotten a glimpse because the winner of the Rainbow Battle Royale was actually Brooke Havoc. And the way that she eliminated Bartman as the last competitor was that she unmasked him.
Oh, wow. Did he grab a towel or?
We got him a towel. We have these merch blankets, and I ran over with a merch blanket to try to give him some privacy because you can imagine the fans were
good marketing.
shocked.
Work the merchandise into the actual show. That's good marketing there. So
we did that a couple of times this show. Actually, we had some drag performers who came out with Clacker fans. That we gave them as a thank you for participating. And, those were great. The fans are outstanding. They say queer wrestling fan on them.
That was my rim shot.
And for the summer, they're a great merch item because people get hot at these shows.
No, great idea. Absolutely. And the crowd was really good. What would you say you had at the Armistice Brewery? How many people do you think?
I think we pre-sold almost 100. We probably doubled that at the door, I would say. So 150 to 200-ish.
For a Sunday
I
show, that's
didn't
really
tell
good.
them. Yeah.
Is that the venue in Richmond where Kraftwerk as well as Bjork had shows?
No. No, they
No.
just meet outside. They just meet
Yeah,
outside.
It's a microbrewery.
Yeah, you're thinking maybe of the Craneway, which is a great event space. But
They still use it,
way out of our price range.
Yeah.
But yeah, did they still use that for concerts? I heard that before I moved from the Bay Area, there was some.
Yeah, they do all kinds of stuff out there. They recently had an immersive VR experience there.
They have a yearly craft fair that we love to attend.
Yeah, the KPFA craft fair.
Yeah.
It supports local public radio.
So before we got on the air, Mike was mentioning about Playa del Mar, and
Well, let me since it was me, I try to be inclusive and welcoming and opening to everyone. We love everybody. We respect everybody. But I screwed up on pronouns, and I think as a lesson, you just have to ask somebody for their preferred pronouns to be respectful. And I screwed up on someone in drag, not Poyo. I wasn't talking about Poyo, but somebody else, and I didn't know that as well, LED. Won't use LED's shoot name. Is so that's true. Most drag performers prefer to be referred to as she. Is that?
Yes.
Well, unless they're a drag king.
Yeah.
Or a drag monster.
The general rule with pronouns is it's never wrong to ask. If you ever have any reason to doubt, it's fine to ask. People are going to be totally okay telling you. And if you wanted to not ask and just go for it, just go by the way someone is presenting. And for most drag queens, that's going to be in a feminine way. So when they're in drag, at a minimum, you would say she. And then, of course, many drag queens are themselves transgender or would use she, her pronouns outside of drag as well.
Mm-hmm.
So
I get a bit confused. I haven't even tried the it or they because there's many, many types. So I think for me now, it's best just to ask before, doing anything.
It's always fine to ask.
But people slip up.
Especially, it's going to be totally
it hurts when you don't mean to, and then you might upset them. And that's the last thing you wanted to do. And we're all like in this together trying to be better. It's no longer like, for example, I would have hoped last night on a terrific Collision debut show for AEW that they didn't call it a 6-man match. These things better be called 6-person now. It's a way to ease straight white privileged males, for example, into doing the right thing, respecting people. So do you guys have other so that's my big takeaway, ask them first, but are there other things that we can do to make everybody feel welcome and comfortable?
I mean,
just being respectful in general. Queer people present all kinds of different ways. Some people, when they meet a queer person and they have trouble assessing the person's gender presentation immediately, they'll jump to asking invasive personal questions, which of course is not a step you want to take.
Yeah.
You just met this person. I can't imagine you would do that though, but that is a common issue that sometimes transgender people deal with.
And, we as cisgender people aren't like the authorities on this.
No.
So, we're very entrenched in the community because we do a lot of work in like LGBT spaces, and we are queer, but we can't speak for the trans community, and everybody's going to have their own individual wants and needs. But there are things that we can do as cisgender people that we can normalize that will just make lives easier for trans people. Like putting your pronouns in your email signature when you send business emails is super minor. It's super easy, but it means that for every trans person who needs to clarify what their pronouns are every time they send an email as not to be misunderstood, it's going to stand out less if every cis person did it too. So it's things like adding your pronouns to your social media presence, introducing yourself with your pronouns if you're in a space that's specifically aiming to be queer inclusive is another thing you can do.
Would it be even easier?
Once in a while, when we have business meetings and we're meeting new people, our director will introduce herself with pronouns, and the rest of us will mention them as we introduce ourselves.
That's that's how the world is now. I almost sometimes think just to myself, which probably even stupid, is maybe getting rid of all of that. But it's hard because we've been so ingrained into the old school route. Couldn't just not have. Now there's quite a few. There's lots,
But what I was saying earlier is it's kind of nice also for members of the transgender community and so forth to forgive people that make mistakes. I mean, to get really bent out of shape and really upset when somebody makes a mistake and just calls somebody that inadvertently versus somebody that truly doesn't respect the community and is doing it as a way to hurt somebody. There's a line between those two things, and it's kind of also up to the transgender community to be forgiving until we all can adjust and get to the point, or at least show you that we're trying to respect you by what we do outside of just a pronoun. The pronoun is good to show respect, but there's so many other things that go along with just using the pronoun. You wouldn't want someone to use the pronouns correctly, but as soon as you leave the room, say something right behind your back, kind of thing. That's much worse. But it's just tough because most people don't want to be offensive, but they are also worried about like what they're going to say about so many other things that the pronouns just sometimes slip out. And I mean, I have friends who have children who are non-binary, and I've used him, the word him or the word her, as just part of a regular conversation. It just kind of flows out of you, and you're not thinking that, but it just comes out anyway.
To be retrained. Like, for example, CBS Sunday Morning this morning had, I think it was a 7 or 8 year old girl who had transitioned already, biologically born male, but she now, and very well adjusted, a piano whiz, and seemed, super. But this was like in Kentucky or the Carolinas, like you would think a traditionally conservative state, and you go, well, man, what she, probably already has gone through in first and second grade, etc. You couldn't even begin to put yourself in her shoes, and it's a learning thing because I think it's relatively new. In what would you say? Is it been more than 3 years? 3 years? 4 years?
I mean, people have been living as their identified gender for as long as there have been people having the concept of gender roles.
Joan of Arc.
Yeah, it's really not new. What is new is the push to recognize the humanity and grant equal rights to those people, because they've always been marginalized. And what you were talking about, like empathizing with the trans community, trying to understand how hard it must be to go through life with people who are willfully calling you by the incorrect pronouns, trying to deny you your right to express your identity the way you feel it, and then furthering that, denying you medical care, denying you your rights to privacy, accusing your parents of grooming you or of molesting you because they're trying to affirm who you are. Like, that's the stuff that we as cisgender people can really speak out against. Like, that's the stuff where, you know, we can vote for the legislation and the people who make the decisions. Like, we can vote for the politicians who are trans inclusive, who want to expand trans rights and other civil rights in general. So,
and if you see someone, you know, being a bigot in public, we as, you know, in my case, a straight presenting cis white man, I have the privilege to be able to speak up in situations in which someone who is transgender or from another marginalized community would not feel capable of speaking up, because I feel comfortable interacting with legal authorities, you know, and I can use language that helps make sure people's rights are respected. So using those abilities that we have as allies is another big way that we can contribute.
Yeah, to maybe help or intercede. There's an article I want to send you guys that I had, you know, most people may not have known, but it was known in the gay community. There was like a gay uprising in Los Angeles that predated, we're talking like 1955, where they fought police who were, you know, doing all of that stuff prior to the New York, the more famous one, which I think was like 62, 63, something like that. So it occurred in LA. I'll send it up to you because it, of course, references the more famous ones. And it's almost like, you know, refusing to sit at the back of the bus if you're African American. And, you know, so kudos to these folks, because it took a lot of guts to stand up even then. And this was against police, too. So.
We actually were discussing the history of negative interactions between the queer community and the police yesterday, in the context of whether our
number one heel
in the company, the zombie police officer Down, would be appearing at Folsom, which is the most famous leather street fair in the world, which is coming right up in September.
And we'll be there.
Folsom is
show there. In fact, you guys should, because
we're running a show there.
We're running a show
really
there.
Good for you. Good for
We've
you.
got about 16 matches.
Yeah,
already on the
is
card, I think.
Our WrestleMania. We put on a show that is 7+ hours long.
Wow.
It goes all day.
What did you guys call it? Dresselmania, like Mickey James charity?
No, I mean, yeah, she's got that unlocked. She's got that cornered. I think we're calling it Folsomania, though. Folsomania.
I remember there was the polk. We had a lot of fantastic. There was the Union Street Fair, the one on Fillmore, but of course the Polk Street Fair. I'm pretty sure there was one in the Castro. You know, it's been a year since I lived there, and that's. I would suggest anybody that's moronic or whatever to go and live in the Bay Area, and you'll learn some empathy, or you know, parts of New York, but I think San Francisco in particular. Going from conservative LA and living 40 years in the Bay Area and taking photos of Devine and John Waters and all of the cast and crew from John Waters' movies, just a blast. And we discussed that on the last show, but I have to dig up those photos. This was, I think I told you guys, it was a Halloween annual huge big money contest called the Beaux-Arts Ball on Old Street at where the Culinary Academy is now, San Francisco Culinary Academy. But they would have this annual thing there, and at the Bill Graham, and Devine would come in, and I was able to take a ton of photos of her, you know, getting all into outfit and the makeup, and that was, gosh, 77, 78 when she was coming up and performing with the Coquettes, that big group. You guys have heard of them. They're pretty.
I think it's pronounced Coquettes, actually.
Yeah, the Coquettes.
I screwed up.
Legends.
These old white dudes learn stuff every day, and we're trying to be better.
Yes.
Well, the outcome of it is Officer Down will be appearing at Folsom. They gave the okay because he is not a real human policeman. He is a zombie and therefore not a straight up policeman.
And we're going to make every effort to make it very clear that he's a character, you know, because everybody's going to be a character.
Well, they had a
I kind of say you even have to preface that in a wrestling show, you know.
Right.
The village people had a policeman and the fireman. Or
Yes.
They did.
And a lot of people really love the aesthetic. So, you know, they'll wear like their leather
Lots of
cop
people
hats and
wear-
leather vests and stuff.
Lots of people wear police outfits to Folsom.
Yeah.
But there is a rule, for the record, just to give context to this. There's a rule that the police don't show up at Folsom in general,
Yeah.
the way that they would at many other street fair type events. So the police,
They don't get a float in the Pride Parade.
right. So the police provide law enforcement protection as a perimeter. And then if they are called in by Folsom site security, then they're allowed to come in and do what needs to be done as police. But I think the organizers of Folsom told us that this hardly ever happens, and it didn't
I was
happen.
going to say, I don't think there's ever been a big incident at the Folsom Street Fair that I can ever remember.
The street fair. But remember what happened? I was still living in the Bay Area when every year Halloween in the Castro was a huge deal, always peaceful. But then a bunch of schmucks, they kept claiming the majority were coming up from San Jose and ruining it to where it was unsafe for everyone, and they put a stop to it. So I don't know, since the pandemic, has Halloween in the Castro returned, or?
No, not really.
That's terrible. Ridiculous.
It's really funny. My mom moved to the DuBose Triangle area, you know, just a short walk from Castro Street when I was in high school. And I was so excited because my parents never wanted to take me there because they knew it got rowdy. But high schoolers get more independent. So I was like, I'm just going to walk over there. And then the year that we moved was the year they shut the goings on down. So I never got to see it.
I got to say this before I leave. I was very bummed to see what's happening. Westfield Center on Market Street closing. Saks has pulled out. That's been there like a billion years. Before I got married, I used to, you know, there were some women that worked in there.
The movie theater's shutting down.
Which movie theater?
The Westfield, the Cinemark.
No, the whole shopping center.
Yeah.
They're not renewing. They're going to default. Nordstrom's had pulled out, but Saks, which was right on Powell at Curry, is if it's not shuttered, I don't know if Neiman Marcus is still there, but all of this stuff that made, you know, that area of Union Square where my dental office was right there. Mm-hmm. I guess, thank goodness I was there and had fun. I had fun before we lost Candlestick Park and all the cool stuff, and it's kind of a bummer because it's such a beautiful city. You know, when you're riding across the Bay Bridge, and I happened to do that once when it was Fleet Week and the bombers were overhead. You know, even though that's sort of like a military political thing, but you know, you just go, wow, what a gorgeous city! It's like a mini New York but cleaner. And hearing all this stuff now, I don't know what the solution is, but I hope they find it soon. You know.
Well, you have to come back up here again, Mike, before it's all gone. And maybe we
can
you guys show.
We may
have a complete. I have a complete collection of Gong Pro Wrestling magazines from the very first issue in the '60s, when it was a monthly, to when it became Shukan or weekly. And Gong went out of business. It was the older of the two newsstand magazines. I'm the only guy to date on the planet, male, female, whatever, to have worked and written and shot for both Shukan Gong and Shukan Baseball, which is the only surviving one. Shukan meaning weekly. It's Shukan pro wrestling / baseball, even though it's just wrestling and MMA. There's no baseball in it. I don't know why they have that in the title. That is the younger of the two magazines. Gong went out of business 14 years ago due to an alleged Yakuza scandal. The other one is still around, and it's the only weekly newsstand magazine in Japan, of all places, where pro wrestling is big.
Well, for what it's worth, we may, as Full Queer, become part of the solution in revitalizing downtown San Francisco.
Yep.
Because our director, Jetta, is applying for a grant, which would cover our rent for a space in which we could produce our show.
Wow. Now that I think that's an exclusive, isn't
Yeah,
it?
It
this
is.
is actually the first time we've talked about this.
So it's
Wow.
not confirmed yet. We
It's in
have
the
a lot
works.
of
We're working on
plans,
it.
and we've wanted some form of premises for a long time. It's been like the pipe dream that we'd be able to establish like a brick and mortar base of operations, ideally with an apartment, so that out of town workers
What
can
about
like
the
stay
Club
there.
DNA? Club DNA had Audra's Incredibly Strange Wrestling when she took that from Johnny Legend, and then after Fog City Wrestling, Dominic used to have his shows at the DNA.
Do you
DNA.
mean that we should buy the DNA Lounge?
Yeah. That'd be
I
nice.
don't know if the events are still happening there, so maybe yes, I would say.
No, the DNA Lounge is still around. Hood Slam performs there from time to time.
But you're thinking of getting your own dedicated space.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
not a bad idea with all these places opening up in downtown. It used to be inconceivable in like the
Yeah.
80s and 90s, but you
Right.
know,
If
the vacancies.
if the shopping center, if Westfield Shopping Center is going to be totally empty soon, maybe you
It's a
could.
lot of square footage, you know, and to put on wrestling shows, you don't actually need all that much.
No, you just
Especially when
need the
you're
ring and
yeah.
a bathroom. Really important to have a bathroom.
Yeah.
Changing.
Yeah, no, I've spent my time changing in alleys enough to know that, you know, you can make do with a sheet and a clothesline, basically.
I've been in them. Russ has too, in locker rooms where the women just changed right there. You tried to give them privacy and look the other way. Before I go, guys, let me just quickly plug some books. Todd Gordon, who used to own, he was the owner who started Eastern Championship Wrestling, has a new book coming out next month called Todd is God. It's the first Simon & Schuster pro wrestling book since they stopped doing WWE's books a good decade ago. Ken Patera's got a great new book out. He talks about Iron Sheik and Billy Graham in it, who we both lost. So RIP to both of those legends. And a friend of mine, I'm trying to bring to this show, Scott Stevens, who is a roller derby, roller game star. That is like pro wrestling. This is old school 70s. He's got a new book, Rolling Thunder, out. The history of derby and roller games. There were two competing leagues from about the 40s to the 80s. Roller derby in the Bay Area. That was Jerry Seltzer's. And there was a enterprise, and the more localized Los Angeles games, the Bill Griffiths entity. But Scott Stevens was a skater during those original years, with a ton of legends like Ann Calvello, who lived right in South San Francisco proper. She was like the Lou Thez of roller games, roller derby, and had skated in 7 different decades. So I'm sure you guys have heard of her because she was the first person in the 40s to put silhouettes, all this color stuff in her hair well before Dennis Rodman started doing it. And then she did some photo shoot with Dennis Rodman later on where she had like the Beatles and their guitar on one side all done into her hair somehow with spray colors, and on the other side was Elvis and his signature guitar. So she was the coolest, but she was called the Moolah of roller derby roller games, the fabulous Moolah of derby roller games. And then she would say, when I take her to Gary Radnich at Channel 4 for the sports report, no, she's the Ann Calvello of pro wrestling. So she knew all of those guys. She had a famous affair with Pepper Gomez, the great wrestler who lived near me in Alameda. There's a lot of crisscrossing between the two. This is not today's legitimate shoot skating on for derby, that's all over the place. I know San Francisco and LA have their own teams. New York does. This is the old school. It was all choreographed, just like.
All right, Mike, we'll have to do a show on roller derby one of these days.
They had their own.
Not tonight. The show on roller derby is not tonight. So anyway, Mike, it's good to have you on this week. We'll have you on next week, and good to have you. We'll see you again.
My best to the two promoters. It sounds like bigger, better, exciting, and more inclusive activity from them. So kudos to you guys. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good night there, Mike. But you guys stay on. We're still going here.
You got it.
Now we can talk wrestling. Oh my God, was he ever going to stop talking about roller derby? I don't know. I usually have kind of like this the Gong Show thing. You ever heard of the Gong Show?
Oh yeah.
She's performed in a version of the Gong Show.
Oh, really? Okay. So, but I get ready with that. When he starts going really far off, I have to like gong him and get us back on track. But what I did want to say is some of my impressions of your show that I went to, and
Please.
I was very impressed with it. First of all, just as a complete overarching thing, I think he had great talent on there. The Aries match, the Aries Austin Star match that you had before the intermission was really a very
you're talking
good.
about Anton Voorhees versus
Yeah, Anton Voorhees.
Ashton-
Sorry,
Yeah,
versus
yeah.
Ashton Star.
and Austin Star. That was Anton Star.
Anton Voorhees, who's our current Lone Star champion, defended against Ashton Star. It was the
Ashton,
first time
sorry.
the two of them had actually fought each other, though they've
Solo.
worked for the same shows many times,
They-
and they've fought in tag matches,
Yeah.
etc.
And
But
that
it was
was
an
a quality
outstanding
match. That was a quality match that you could see on AEW or even like a lower card in the WWE. And that I thought was well timed to have that right before intermission. It built up, your card built up well to that intermission match, because a lot of feds will not deliver a really quality match before intermission. I don't know why, because you want to end on a high note to bring people back in, but a lot of times those intermission matches before intermission, they just, go through the motions. So I thought that was very well booked. So I wanted to give you guys credit for that. I thought you had a good mix of interviews and promos with the matches that were good to give people like a Doc Atrocity a chance to really introduce people. I forgot the name of the lady he was introducing. Doc Atrocity was during his promo.
Eliza Hammer.
Yeah, the
Eliza
dramatic
Hammer.
Eliza Hammer.
I thought she did
Now
a good
Extreme
job.
Eliza Hammer.
She
Yes.
does want us to call her Madam Extreme. It's true.
Madam Extreme, she was very good working with the crowd, and where I didn't think the promo went on too long. I think you guys are getting a good sense of like how to mix the action with the promos. None of these things went too long. You did not get any boring chants. You did not have anybody, I think, feeling that the matches were overextended or overbooked. I had a really good time. Again, I hadn't seen a live match in over 5 years, so it was really special to get a chance to see what you guys were doing, and that you pulled it off. What were your thoughts of the show?
As far as producing it, I feel like everything went really well. We're continuing to work on our ticket numbers. Ticket sales are absolutely our number one source of revenue. So we're working on new ways to promote. For this next show, we've invested twice as much upfront in flyers to hand out to start flyering the show. We started it over this past weekend at our first ever arm wrestling show, which is a new thing that we're trying now. I'll get to that later. But we had no backstage drama at the show, the kind of things
Amazing.
that ruin the vibe. We try very hard to maintain a good locker room environment. We want everyone to support each other, hold each other up. We're all part of the community, or at least we're here to support the community. For those who are straight people, there's a few of them.
We call them our
do book
token
them.
straight guys. Yeah.
But at many other wrestling companies, the locker room environment is not positive for queer people,
Oh, God, I
especially
do think.
transgender performers.
Who's this?
Malcolm.
This is
We're
this
a
is Malcolm.
pet-friendly program too.
He's
So we always like to see
one of our two original cats. We got these cats right after we moved in together. He's
Bring
named
it to the
after
camera.
Malcolm Reynolds,
Or
Nathan
does he like
Fillion's
to be-
character
does he like-
in
Does he like to be on camera? Does he like that?
He does. Cat tax. Gotta
Oh,
pay
here he
cat
is.
tax. Always destroyed my sweater.
If
Here,
you
just sit
want
with us.
to destroy my sweater.
Yeah, he's our handsome brown coat. We're definitely crazy cat people at this point. Over the pandemic, we fostered 6 kittens from the same litter.
Wow.
And we named them all after AEW wrestlers.
He did.
And Ryan Lex here built a ring, like to scale. And we made a little logo for them that said Kitten Wrestling Federation. And yeah, we
skirts.
we filmed the kittens play fighting the entire time we had them, and we filmed backstage interview segments, and then we would cut the footage together to look like actual wrestling matches.
You know, at the shows, at the full queer wrestling shows, you should have during intermission or something, you should probably have a monitor going with some of the kiddie wrestling stuff.
We could
totally do that.
People would probably go nuts over that. So the other thing I wanted to say, and I mean this is for the general audience, is that even though your name is Full Queer Wrestling, I didn't feel it was overly queer. I didn't feel it was overly sexualized. I don't think it was. I think anyone that's a fan of wrestling could go to that and enjoy it as much as they went to any show, an AEW show. I mean, I appreciate the fact that you guys are full of queer wrestling, but it's almost a disservice in a way because it's not full queer. It's just wrestling.
Well, you haven't seen our Folsom Street Fair shows.
No,
yet.
and that
that's
going
very
to a targeted audience. Yeah, you're going to a targeted audience there, and that's where you're really, allowed to just, let it, no pun intended, let it all hang out. But
yes.
but for a general audience that you provided at the Armory, at the Armistice Brewery, I didn't feel it was anything that a parent couldn't take their kid to. There wasn't a ton of swearing. There wasn't a ton of working blue or things that were overly sexualized that would make people really feel uncomfortable if that's
all by design.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Other gay wrestling shows tend to be adults only. And the performers do a lot of sexual jokes, a lot of sexual physical comedy. And they're just not family-friendly shows by design. But we run in the time. We have this 2 p.m. time slot. A lot of people come after brunch. They come after church. And we appeal to families. So we produce an all-ages show. It's a queer show, and it's an inclusive show, and most of the performers on any given show will be queer in one way or another. But that doesn't mean that it's not a family-friendly show.
I think it's a great message to send that you can be queer and deliver a product that's not overly sexualized.
Here's the thing, right? We don't think of WWE as straight wrestling, but by default, that's what it is. People who are married in character are almost always straight. I think the only queer representation I've seen from them is Queer as the Other. People like Goldust, who, people called him queer and he was like, I'm not queer. And, William Regal coming out in drag and stuff. But
there's Sonya Deville now and maybe a couple others. Yeah. But that's only become the case in the last couple of years.
And the Sonya Deville, Mandy Rose, will they, won't they storyline was played for the straight audience to ogle at them. And so, queer stories are just wrestling stories like any other, we just live our lives and have conflict with people and have relationships with people. And I think part of the problem in politics and stuff right now is that so often, queerness is represented as this adult thing that children shouldn't be exposed to, but it's just a fact of life. And it's only as sexualized as people make it. And that's what's othering about it. So what we want to do is show the kids in the audience that there are many types of people that you can grow up to be, and some are good and some are bad. And, you know, we've got no gender divisions or weight class divisions in full queer because it's part of that. Like, we don't want anyone to be defined by any one part of them. We just want to have a whole really diverse, interesting group of characters and then throw them at each other and see where conflict arises or who works well together, stuff like that.
Which means that you have to work on your storylines, and you did, and it showed. That's what I'm really proud of you guys for, is that you could tell the work that when you just didn't bring a bunch of people together and say, work it, you know, just work your match and then end it, you know, and that's it. I mean, there really was.
Yeah, we got to credit.
I have to credit Jetta,
the brain behind all of this.
She's the brains behind Full Queer. She's the director of the show, and all booking decisions ultimately are up to her. So wrestlers, if you're watching this, you could get in contact with me, Lex/Ryan Devine, but really you should get in contact with Jetta.
Yeah, if you're trying to, you know, brother us, you really got a sister Jetta.
Sure, yeah.
But she has these extremely detailed scripts. She's the one that controls the pacing of the show. She's the one who sets the time limits. And she's very particular about how she wants things done. So, and I think this is incredible because we have such a supportive locker room that when she gives a direction, everybody listens to and respects her for it because they see the bigger picture. We're trying to build this into a regular show. Our hope is that we can get attendance up enough that we can really start turning a profit and run every month in Richmond, because she has the whole long-term story planned. She's got years of builds and conflicts and, you know, grudge matches and all this stuff in her brain. And so she's trying to balance the very real needs of the promotion, like our budgetary constraints, and like the political things, like, okay, it would be good to work with these folks because they're in contact with these folks and they have these connections, stuff like that. But it always makes sense, and it always tells a larger story of queer empowerment. And I think it's really great to hear you put over things like the matches not being too long and the stories being clearly expressed and the promos coming in at the right times, and even the Ashton versus Anton match coming right before intermission. All of that is really just...
I pay very close attention to that. I pay a very close attention to those things. And, you know, and I'm not the kind of person, I mean, I have been to, you know, garbage shows and shows that just seem like they were put on by kindergartners, you know, that are doing the school plays. You know, there's a difference there, and you guys ran it very. First of all, you started on time.
That was a first.
Either way, you did that while I was there, and that already you get super bonus points for starting on time. Because I've been to shows that start half an hour, 45 minutes late, and that's so disrespectful to the audience.
I've been to shows that start an hour late.
Yeah, that's true. And that's so disrespectful to an audience that's sitting there waiting for you to start, and they got nothing to do, and they're just looking at an empty ring, you know?
I think our latest show was about 20 minutes late, but we try to keep it on time.
Yeah, I mean, 15 minutes, okay, that's not a big deal. You know, when it's 10, 15 minutes late, that's not a big deal. But when you hit that hour part where people are just looking at each other, you know, and they're on their phones.
You don't want to be there.
Yeah, and you already get the audience off to a bad foot, you know, and they're already in a negative state of mind. You know, you hit the audience while they're hot and ready for you, that carries through for the entire show. Mm-hmm. A lot of promoters don't understand that. And I really hope that the brewery is happy with you guys. You know,
they're very happy.
They're the ones that are pushing us to try to run more often, because they're like, we want to make this a event every month that people from the area can start to come every month, and like really build a culture around this. And I think that's so cool. Armistice, every single person we've worked with at Armistice,
They were
has
very
been
nice. They were
They're
very
all
incredible.
outstanding.
You can also
Super
bring that
organized, professional. They make great beer,
Great
Yeah.
beer.
incredible, incredible beer.
They have a special Pride Month beer. I should put it
Sours,
over. It's called the Gayest.
ciders.
It comes in a rainbow can. All profits from the sales of this beer go to the Trevor Project, I believe. You know, it
Don't
tastes
just
great.
drink
I've
Bud
had
Light.
several.
Don't just drink Bud Light. Get the Gayest ale if you can.
Bud Light, I mean, it's whatever. Maybe they did this one deal, but it's a corporate beer. You know, you're just supporting InBev, which is one of the biggest liquor companies in the world.
Right. No, you're
But,
absolutely right.
yeah, you go to a microbrewery, you're supporting your community, and that's what Full Queer has been about since the beginning, was like community building, outreach. Like we are almost running this as if it was an activist organizing group or something. Like
That's great.
Yeah,
I mean,
our director does
She
have
has a
activist
background in that,
organizing
yeah.
experience.
you can feel the support from your fans, and I know it's great that a lot of the friends and family were there to see you go, but you could feel it within everybody that was there. You know, we were all supporting. There's so much, and I hate to use the term love in the audience, because obviously you hate the heels and you're supposed to root against the bad guys, but I think everybody there, you could feel the support there, wanting to make this into a bigger thing, and to see this, to be there for you guys, and to be there for the effort that you're putting forward to entertain us. We felt that, and that's the thing that made us attend and want to, go to other matches and be there for the future, and to see this thing get bigger and better for you. And you guys are not sitting on your laurels. You're not sitting there going, patting yourselves on the back and saying, well, of course you guys love us. Exactly. I think that you guys are showing that you want to grow with this, and not just put it on a shelf and say, well, that was fun, we'll never do it again. As I said, the way most shows are, probably the day after you were done, you were probably like, oh my God, we'll never do it. We're not going to do show maybe in 10 more years, but we're not going to do it anytime sooner than that. And then,
the emotional roller coaster of producing wrestling shows is quite something.
Yeah, it is. But at least from the outside looking in, nothing went wrong. From our perception
fabulous
of looking at it. And I know that no wrestling show ever goes that smoothly, but I didn't hear people yelling at each other. I didn't hear people like saying, you stupid, swearing at each other because somebody blew a spot, or somebody, didn't like tie down part of the ring, or, their promo went too long, or they forgot something, or I didn't see any of that. And I mean, you have, as you said, the locker room is key. You have some amazing presences in that locker room, from Atrocity to the Stoner Brothers being there to watch and make sure that everything was going okay. You had Christina Von Eerie there, Kikyo, the Fallen Flower was there, Brittany Wonder was there. I mean, these are some real veteran names and tops. They aren't big enough so that people who are WWE fans know who they are. But if you're here in the Bay Area, the people that you brought on that card were some of the best veterans you could get for the money. And I think that really helped glue the card together and make it solid. There was no point in time where you were really saying to yourself, why are these people in the ring? They have no business being in the ring. I felt that at, some BTW matches for sure.
Wow.
Yeah, well, God, with Dash Riprock, I don't know if you guys are. He hasn't wrestled in. I can step on his toes because he hasn't wrestled probably in about 15 years. But he was so awful. You would see him in the ring and you just go, who trained this guy? Why is he in the ring? He just has no skill or talent. And everybody that I saw in your Fed had a reason to be in there and had a good in-ring story to tell, and they told it, and nobody was. Everyone had that opportunity to do that, and you guys are about opportunity. And now that you've provided those opportunities for everybody else, the best opportunities should be there for you guys too. And
well, we if I could say something that sounds a little hackneyed, I believe firmly that wrestling is a team sport, and we're all on the team. So, especially as a queer wrestling company, as I said earlier, we need to maintain a positive environment, hold each other up, recognize that we're in this to put on the show together, and we're all on the same team here. Like,
I personally am proud to be part of your guys' team.
Thanks.
I feel if I can be part of it, it brings me back to the days of my APW and CCW stuff, but I appreciate your level of organization, your thoroughness, your ability to make this stuff happen, and considering it takes bravery to do what you're doing. Instead of I'm sure before you did any show, there were people that detracted against it and said, you can't do this. You shouldn't do this.
Yes.
They're still telling us that.
And they still are. And it comes down to you guys. And I know you guys now, because we've had off mic conversations and things like that you're never going to back down. This is the thing that is going to make you guys a success. And I'm really admire the show that you put on, and I know it's going to get even better the more you put shows on. You're going to get even more polished and maybe get into some big venues, and sometime when it's on TV I can say,
"Put your mouth to God's ears," I swear.
But I've seen it happen too. I've seen guys, I worked at CCW shows with Timothy Thatcher when he was just a skinny little kid, and he was just as nice as the day was long, but nobody knew who he was. He wasn't fighting against a Bryan Danielson for a title on TV.
By the way, if Timothy Thatcher watches this,
if
we
you're
would
out
love
there,
to get in touch with you.
Please tell us your rates.
I would love to see Timothy again. He's such a nice guy, and he was so great to work with. But what I'm saying is, you are in a position now to start generating really great talent. You've got this great connection too with Hood Slam and Stoner U that you can start funneling guys into, and they can be part of Full Queer without feeling like, oh, I'm going to be typecast. Like they can do what they want to do as a straight wrestler or as a queer wrestler, and not feel like that's what I've got to be for the rest of my career. You can be a starting point and yet not a dead end for these wrestlers, and that's going to be a great moment.
I feel like we should put over some of our up and comers.
Yeah, we draw from.
This is the segue perfect for that.
We draw from a bunch of places at Full Queer. We're always on the lookout for up and coming talent. We're talking about booking Jin Savani for our upcoming show Snapback in August. She's an upcoming queer wrestler. She was on the QWI Top 200 recently. We've got Brooke Havoc as our new Princess of Pride champion. She's an up-and-comer getting a lot of recognition. She's appeared on AEW. She was also originally dressed by LED, who also designs and makes wrestling gear. She's clothed a number of our performers, including making all of her own wrestling gear.
But back to Brooke, I think she started training right before the pandemic. So I was training with her under Rick Leathery at East Bay Pro for like a couple of weeks before the whole world shut down. And then she went to the Nightmare Factory in Georgia. Trained under Cody Rhodes, was mentored by him.
Yeah.
And she's had so many setbacks. injury-wise, but has come back better and stronger every single time. She is so dedicated, and being a part of Full Queer means a ton to her, clearly. Like, when we gave her the belt, she got so emotional, and it was like really sweet to see her so invested in what we're doing. And then in return, we get to put some, shine on her name by giving her one of the prettiest belts in all of indie wrestling, I think. It looks like the IWGP belt, but purple instead of white.
Cute. Wonderful. Well, guys, unfortunately, that's the hour. It goes by so quickly, but please, first of all, promote your Fed, promote the next show, and tell everybody all about it. I love that flyer. It's amazing.
Thank
Your
you so
artwork
much.
is really good.
Check out the flyer image on all our socials. It's on Facebook. It's on Twitter. You can find links to that at beacons.ai/fullqueer. Also, see our next show, Snapback. That's August 13th. We will also be performing an adults-only show at the Folsom Street Fair preview show, which is called Up Your Alley / the Dory Alley Fair. We'll be doing an exhibition match or two at their Twister stage, I believe. Details of that are still being worked out, but look for us there on July 30th. Then you've got Snapback August 13th at 2 p.m. And then, of course, we will also be performing our 7-hour extravaganza at the Folsom Street Fair. That's definitely an adults-only show. And then we'll also be at the Barrison Street Fair later this year. So those are all our upcoming dates.
Those are great shows. I'm so proud of you guys. You want to give anybody your contact info for your social media stuff so they can get a hold of you?
Yes, we are at Full Queer on almost every social media platform. We're there on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Full Queer. And if you want to send us an email directly, we are looking for sponsorships. We're always taking new resumes from talent. So just email fullqueerevents@gmail.com and we'll get back to you.
Excellent, guys. We'll have you on again for sure. I'm looking forward to your August show. I want to come again. And, hopefully I can be able to stay for the entire show, it's like at least get to see you up there.
I could use a lawyer.
That's something else we can talk about off air. So we should definitely have a little bit of like back and forth on that. But I'm sure the fans don't want to get any of those details. That'll be just for us.
Yes.
Privilege.
Maybe another time at the Black Bear Diner. Another dinner at the Black Bear Diner. We'll talk about all that.
Perfect.
Sounds great.
Anyway, guys, thank you so much for being on the show tonight, and we'll have you on again very soon. Good night, everybody.
Always a pleasure.